I think it's a pure coincidence that I'm also filming this newest episode of the Porter Says podcast with your host and only host Heath, of course. But yeah, pure coincidence that I'm filming it on the final State of Origin game. And it looks like I'm kind of wearing the correct color this time as opposed to the last time I did it, where I was wearing blue. So I'm very, very, consider this an apology. But, so yeah, brand new episode for you guys to witness, of course. So, I will get straight into what I am going to be discussing with this one. Okay, so we have two bits of news. We have three, two of them are much older, or oldish movies, like early 2000s movies, and one was a movie that came out last year. I will be seeing the new Superman movie tomorrow, which I am very excited for. So, I think at some point tomorrow, once I've seen it, I'm going to either review it and, cut in between, what do you call it? Throw it into this episode at some point during it, or just do an entirely separate video for it. But I think it would make more sense to cut it in between what I'm doing now with this new podcast episode. So at some point during this review or episode, that I probably will be reviewing Superman. So keep an eye out for that. Instead of just waiting until next week to film and talk about it, I would rather it be put into this one so it's a bit more relevant. I think I've come to realize that some of the new release movies, when they come out during the week, I review them the next week and then they're not as relevant. So I figured, why not just go see, when I see the new movie tomorrow, review it straight after. I hope that made sense. If you know what I mean, yeah. Okay, so we'll go with the news first. Usually it's I never know what order I go with these ones. So only two things really. So they released a little teaser trailer for a brand new animated Cat in the Hat movie with Bill Hader as the voice of Cat in the Hat himself. I have to say, it's a movie that's happening. It certainly is. It's coming, and it looks very, very, very different from the book. The Dr. Seuss classic, and of course the 2003 live action Mike Myers Cat in the Hat, which we all know is also an absolute classic. Yeah. I don't know. It looks fine. Again, it looks very different from the book, especially, and even in the Mike Myers one was closer to the book, but not entirely accurate still. So the animation looks pretty cool. I mean, you can't really go wrong with how the animated movies look these days visually, depending on what. I can't remember what companies produced this one. I thought it was Illumination because they did the Grinch one, and it just made sense to me. But I actually have no clue. I really don't. So that's that. That's Cat in the Hat. And then, just this morning, Disney Plus released their kind of what's coming in 2025. And they showed a decent amount of brand new footage for Percy Jackson Season 2. Percy Jackson and the Olympians. There was a little bit more shown, which was nice. But then, I think the the Percy series, which is like on Instagram and stuff like that. They released a bunch of, I think like 16, 17 kind of little clips, gifs, gifs, whatever you want to call them, of even more footage, which looks really cool. You've got a bit more of the chariot race, with like Percy, Annabeth, Clarice, and Tyson. There's a shot of what looks like is Grover standing on a beach, and he sees this like giant tentacle monster. You got a shot of Percy helping Annabeth up, because I think something must have happened, I would assume, during that moment. There's one shot that was only, I think, released on a different... it wasn't shown as like in the US or anything. It was a UK shot of Percy running through a hallway or something, which looks like it's on Luke's ship. And it looks like he's got the golden fleece, and it looks like he's been stabbed or something like that. So yeah, just a bunch of stuff. Some more angles and all that stuff of the little rematch between Clarice and Percy, which I'm very, very, very excited to see. I'm excited to see more of Clarice, because we didn't get a whole lot of her in the first season. So I'm very interested to see what else they do with her. And I've read the second book and I've seen the movie, and Clarice has a lot more to do in those stories, even though she wasn't in the first movie. So it was quite odd that they introduced her into the second one, but we would have had no clue who she was unless we had read the books. And at that point, I hadn't. But yeah, I can't wait for Percy Jackson Season 2. I think it's going to be awesome. I hope, because I've said it a couple times, I really love the first season. Despite some of its flaws, I really, really love it. So, those are the bits of news. Now I'm going to go on to the 3 movies. Also, go Queensland. Once again, go Queensland. Let's hope they win this one, because I believe they won the last game. So let's hope so. Let's go. We'll see the results, obviously, by the end of tonight. So, we'll see. Okay, so the 3 films I would like to discuss besides Superman, which, again, I am seeing tomorrow. But at some point, I will put my review of it into this. So if it does unexpectedly cut to that, be warned. Hey, it's me from the future, everybody, on the podcast episode that's coming out this Friday. Yes, as I had warned in the previous clip, if it cut unexpectedly, you were warned. It only makes sense because I am going to be reviewing Superman. Me in the future right now has just gotten back from the theater, from seeing the latest DC movie, the start of James Gunn's universe, essentially. Yeah, I just want to get straight into it because I feel like I don't have a whole lot to say, really. Or I do, but I don't want to keep you too long because I feel like this episode's going to be as long as it probably will be. It also made sense to wear a Superman shirt to go and see this, and I've got something Superman-related sitting next to me. I mean, yeah, it's Smallville, but it's still Superman, you know? It's a very Superman-themed thing right now. So, does the latest Superman movie, does it live up to the hype? Because I was seeing early reviews and stuff like that, and you know, like a lot of positive stuff. And I'm here to tell you guys, yeah, this movie was fantastic. It probably had maybe like a 15-20 minute drive to think about it, and also like just kind of like after the movie finished, and kind of had thoughts while I was driving in the car to really think about how I truly felt about this film. And yeah, it's so good, guys. Issues I do have with it is that it does throw quite a lot at you. And if you don't really know the Superman story, you might be a little bit confused. So people who are like going into this movie who don't know a ton about Superman, maybe do some research. I felt like the inclusion of like Nathan Fillion and Isabella Merced, and I don't know who plays Mr. Terrific. There might be some spoilers thrown in here, by the way, so if you don't want to know any, then maybe click off and or go to the next part of this episode. But yeah, I felt like those characters of the movie, they didn't get a whole lot of screen time, and I feel like maybe they didn't really add much to it. But holy crap, those are pretty much the negatives, and they're not really massive, because despite it throwing quite a bit at you, it balances it so well. I love pretty much a lot of the other action sequences in this film. David Cornsweet, I think that's his name, and I'm actually going to Google the cast so I don't mispronounce anybody's names, and as I'd hate to do that, because this movie deserves so much, I think. I know it's kind of weird to be praising this movie so much, but like, I knew I was probably going to like it, but I didn't expect to love it. You know, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. So yeah, David Cornsweet as our new Superman and Clark Kent. What else can I say? He was flat out brilliant, guys. He brought such charm and, you know, charisma and all that to the role. We don't get a ton of Clark Kent scenes, but it didn't bother me that much because this is Superman. It's a Superman movie. So I was fine with that. Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Nathan Fillion, Isabella Merced, just, you know, I think everybody in the cast does a really solid job with their roles. Yeah, talk about Nicholas Hoult though as Lex Luthor. Probably one of the best Lex Luthors we've gotten in a while. He's still not quite really up to Michael Rosenbaum's, performance as Lex Luthor in Smallville. I won't compare it too much to Smallville because this is probably still my favorite Superman adaptation, but I feel like once I see this movie again, this movie could top it. And I'm going to say a statement at the very end of this little review. I really liked Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. I thought she brought a lot of charm, and yeah, she was fantastic in the role. Pretty much about as good as a Lois as you can get. Very sarcastic and very witty. The scenes between her and Clark/Superman are so good. We don't get a ton of screen time with Jonathan and Martha, and we don't get a lot of the Kent farm, but we get two scenes, and especially the second scene we get when he goes to, when he's there with them. It's very, very good. And I think the actors did a pretty decent job. Yeah, it was just like really cool to see like the Kent farm in a new adaptation. I really liked seeing that just because I've always loved the Kent farm, to be honest. And we never got a ton of it in adaptations besides Smallville, because that's where a lot of it took place, especially in the earlier seasons. What else can I say about this movie? I mean, I could go on for hours about it. It floored me. It really did. Yeah. So you got Nathan Fillion as what's actually supposed to be, spoiler alert for people who don't know, he's supposed to be a thing of Green Lantern. Isabella Merced is Hawkgirl. And you got Mr. Terrific as well. And I'd say Mr. Terrific was probably the best out of the three, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl. I really liked his scenes. He was quite funny in a lot of them. And also, spoiler alert, this is probably one of the biggest, two big spoilers really. I don't know how many people are gonna, maybe some people already knew this going in, or I don't know. But spoiler, we get a Peacemaker cameo, John Cena, which was interesting to see, and I liked seeing that, even though I've actually never seen the Peacemaker show, and I hadn't seen like the Suicide Squad movie that was directed by James Gunn. And then in pretty much the very last scene, just before the credits, we get Supergirl, played by, where did she go? Millie Alec. She's Australian. Yeah, fellow Aussie. Let's go. But since James Gunn is, kind of doing, taking over this whole universe of DC, I think we're in good hands. Look, if you want some more in-depth thoughts, really, about how I feel about this film, I'd say just, go and watch other ones, because they'll probably say a lot more than I will, and I actually want to read my Letterboxd review. It's nothing. It's like a quick little sentence, because this is kind of the final thing I really want to say about this film. I basically said, James Gunn, you have saved the DC universe. Thank you. It's weird to say that, but it's like, he has. He really has. Like, this is... And then I said, I can't wait for what else you have in store for us fans. If I'm going to give a rating, it might be a 10. It might be 5-star. I don't know yet. But possibly. I'm going to fully, somewhat confirm it that it probably is a 10. It might not be deserving of a 10, really. But it's close, guys. It's close. So that's it for this review of Superman, and now I'm going to cut back to a day ago. So this is me from the future, signing off. Obviously, we'll be talking about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Because obviously in the past few episodes, I've been on my billionth rewatch of the Potter movie, so I talked about 1 and 2, then 3 and 4. Now I'm on to 5 and 6. So I watched 6 last week, and then 5 the week before. So we'll start with Order of the Phoenix, obviously. I have to be honest, this is the only Potter movie of the main 8. I'm not talking about, all the 11, if you include the Fantastic Beasts movies, but of the main original 8 Potter movies. So these ones here, in that poster. Order of the Phoenix is the one that really kind of has gotten worse for me over time. I think half of it is just, it's just so a big montages, and none of it really impresses me besides the Dumbledore army stuff, really, which is in the majority of them. But then you get stuff with the Weasleys, Fred and George pranking Mr. Filch, and all the stuff with Umbridge, and a lot of the classroom stuff, which doesn't really intrigue me that much. It's not really until from the moment that Umbridge finds where the Room of Requirement is and finds out about Dumbledore's army, all the way towards the end, to the end of the movie, it really starts to pick up a lot there and becomes actually a good movie. But the third act of this movie really is really good. Once they get to the Ministry for Magic for the final battle, and he goes to find this prophecy. And the prophecy stuff is interesting. It's one of the more interesting parts of the movie. The Dumbledore army stuff is great. Daniel Radcliffe is really, really good as Harry here. You see the struggles he's going through, that, no one believes him and Dumbledore that Voldemort's returned, and he's just got so much going on in his life and all that stuff. I think that final battle is between Voldemort and Dumbledore is so good. And if I'm honest, if I had the option to skip this every time I rewatch it, I probably would, but I can't. So yeah, it's a fine movie. And then you got Half-Blood Prince, which again it's good, but it's still in that realm of the Potter movies, for at least for me, after 4, and then before Deathly Hallows Part 2, they're not really as great as those ones. This one is pretty good, but as I was rewatching it, and I've also like done my research over the past couple of years, I randomly just started to read the book. I was like, all right, I gotta see really how different this book is from the film. And my God, I'm only like 130 pages into the book, so I haven't gotten that far, but I was able to like get enough and go, yeah, there is so much more detail in this book than the movie. There's more stuff with like Borgin and Bergs when Harry, Ron, and Hermione are in Diagon Alley and they go to follow Malfoy and his mother to see what's going on there. There's like a really like sassy interaction between Harry and Malfoy and his mother, which I think is very, very funny. There's a really interesting conversation between, I think it's the Prime Minister and the Minister for Magic. Like, I really, really like that scene. The scene between, I think it's Bellatrix, Snape, and Narcissa. So that's Draco Malfoy's mum. There's a lot more to it when they're talking about the unbreakable vow. So, and I've always been aware that like a lot of the Voldemort's memories got cut. There's only 2. And I heard there's so much more. And it's just like, that really would have made Voldemort a much more interesting villain than he is. But, so yeah. And maybe at some point, once I finish the book, I'll go into more detail. But for now, I think if I had to go based on as an adaptation, I'd say Half-Blood Prince is probably worse than Order of the Phoenix. But if we're just going as a Potter movie, I'd say Order of the Phoenix is worse. So if that makes sense. But yeah, I like the Half-Blood Prince movie. I know a lot of people obviously don't, for various reasons, but I think it's good. It's really funny. I think it's the funniest in the series by far. There's a lot of really good jokes. It's funny. A lot of people complain about the action sequence in the Burrow, and I see why, because it was just randomly thrown in there, and it's not actually in the book, to my knowledge. Again, I haven't gotten that far. But I think it was just kind of in there just to have some more action in the movie. Obviously, you get the big spoiler. Dumbledore is killed by Professor Snape, and I think the death scene of Dumbledore is handled very, very well. So yeah, those are my very convoluted, rambly thoughts on the Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And that's my thoughts on the 2 bits of news, which is the Cat in the Hat animated film coming out and the new footage of Percy Jackson Season 2. And that's about it, really, for this one. So, again, at some point, the Superman review should be included in this. So I hope you enjoyed that part of the episode. And yeah, that's going to conclude everything, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you are, feel free to like, share, subscribe, and follow me on all my other social media stuff. Links will be below in the description. And I'll catch you guys next time, obviously. So I hope you have a good rest of your week and weekend. And yeah, bye-bye.